Hello, evening, depending on when and where you're watching this video from. My name is Denise Belil, and I'm a serenity expert and positive intelligence specialist. I have the honor today to have Melissa Daly in my show at the It's All Good. Look who's here for a chat. And before I talk to you a little bit more about Melissa, I want to talk to you about It's All Good. So why is it called It's All Good? Well, it's always good to be called It's All Good, but also it's my favorite cup. It's all good. I was drinking my tea on a Saturday morning and I said, okay, I want to do my lives. And what did I call it? And then I was like, oh, it's all good. And then I said, how can I use that? And then turn out that, 39 episode later, I'm here. It's all good. Look who's here for a chat. And the reason why it's all good is because life goes by so fast. I don't know about you, but April is right around the corner on the back and May is right around the corner in the front. And it's already 4 months into the year. And why bothers worrying about what happened yesterday or worrying what's going to happen in the future? Because there's no time for that. We need to embrace today and forget about yesterday and don't worry about tomorrow and embrace today and say, hey, it's all good, regardless of what happened, when it happened, why it happened. When you do that, what happens is that you take so much weight off your shoulders and you feel so much better about your life because you live more in the moment and you appreciate every single moment of your life. So let me tell you a little bit more about Melissa. Melissa, she's an integrated health practitioner, registered health coach, NLP, TLT, and hypnotherapy. So I'm sure she'll tell us a little bit about that. Our topic today is empowered health. Health empowerment means sharing with people how they can take action in their health so they don't get sick, letting them know just how much control they have over their health outcome. It's not all about what the parents had, like genetics and stuff. It's much more of how you live your life and what people choose to put in their body. Melissa and I were very aligned on that. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. So who's Melissa? Well, she's an integrated health practitioner, registered health coach, and train in NLP timeline therapy. I was wondering what TLT was. Timeline therapy and hypnotherapy. She dedicated to helping her client discover the root cause of their health issue and truly heal. Melissa's business is 100% virtual, and she works with the entire English-speaking world. And one day when we'll have connection with other planets, I'm sure if they speak English, she can go there too. Melissa used the two-prong approach. One, discover your toxic load and lower it. And two, discover your body imbalance and then guides you to bringing your body back into balance, at which point it will heal itself. This is done with functional medicine lab test mailed to your home. So you don't even have to go out. It's mailed to your home and then you put it back in the mail. So let's welcome Melissa. I'm so happy to have you here today. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here, Denise.
It's a pleasure to have you. And I remember the first time we met and I heard you describe what you do. And I was thinking, I have to talk to her. And that's about a year ago. And I was like, I have to talk to her. And then I approached you right away. Like the next day I sent you a message and say, hey, we have to talk because I really enjoy what you do. I've been studying in functional medicine also in the past. And for me, it's I totally understand what you say, but do you have more you would like to add about? I know you just got certified in, is it hypnotherapy, timeline therapy?
And NLP, yes. So
Wonderful.
I just added that to my toolbox of skills that I can use when working with clients because it is so important to me to work with my clients to help them achieve the goals that they want, right?
Mm-hmm.
And working with the physical body is very powerful for many, many people. And for many people, that's all they need because that's where their imbalances are. And when we can see those in the lab tests, we know where the deficiencies are. We know then how to support. Maybe it's the mineral levels that are deficient. Maybe it's vitamins. Maybe it's bacterial overgrowth, candida overgrowth. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's an imbalance in our omegas. Maybe it's an imbalance in our hormones, cortisol, et cetera, et cetera. So we see all of those things and we can support the body in coming back into balance, right? But for some people, there's, past trauma, there's negative emotions that are getting them stuck. So even though
Mm-hmm.
they know what they need to be doing to continue on their healing journey, they're getting stuck. And it's the safety mechanism in our brain that is telling them it's unsafe for them to move forward, because
Mm-hmm.
we have to go back in and release that repressed emotion, release those limiting beliefs. And when we do that and we work with the mental and the emotional bodies, then that's when the clients have inevitable success, because we've
Yeah.
addressed all aspects of the body to get them to the goals that they want. And
Yeah.
as you said, our work is very aligned. And also just the whole approach to empowered health, I know we're aligned on. And that's so important to me, for people to understand how much control they have over their own health. And that it isn't about a quick fix. It isn't about a magic pill, but it is about understanding your body and how it works. And the science of epigenetics thrills me, because this is new science that's, come out in the last 10 years that shows us just how empowered we are. And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is that we used to believe that our genes dictated our health outcomes. So
Mm-hmm.
if our dad had heart disease, we were going to get heart disease. If our mom had breast cancer, we were going to get breast cancer, right? We
Yeah.
heard that over and over again.
Over and over again.
And the downside of hearing that over and over again, right,
You believe
especially
it.
with women and breast cancer, is that you believe that, you start to make it happen, right? Because what you focus on, you get more of. And we can actually make ourselves sick,
Mm-hmm.
or when we know better, we can make ourselves healthy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the reality is, though, that that isn't even true, that the fact that they had breast cancer, so you're going to get breast cancer, that's only 5 to 10% of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
That's a small, small amount, right?
Yeah.
The 90 to 95% that makes up the rest of that equation is all about your lifestyle and what you're putting inside your body and how well you take care of your inner body,
Yeah.
which most people don't even think about because we can't see it.
This is very powerful, because I remember when I was taking my functional medicine course, and we were talking about the same thing you're talking about, the fact that
Mhm.
if a parents have a predisposition for a certain disease, that if you believe you'll get it. But what cause also people to develop that disease is they will eat the same food as their parents, they will have the
Mhm.
same behaviors as their parents,
Mhm.
they would not question, like you and I, where I question everything I put in my body, and I'm sure you do
Right.
the same. It's like, read
Yes.
the label, is that healthy for me, should I eat that, or if there is a label, should I eat it, right?
Right. Exactly.
And then, but then when people follow the same path, they have the same type of food, they have the same type of behaviors, you put anybody in the same pot, you will have the same illness and the same disease, right?
Yes. And then on top of that, you add fear to the equation,
Of
right?
course.
Because now they're fearful they're going to get this disease while they
Yeah.
don't change any of the habits.
Yeah.
That fear weakens the immune system,
Yeah.
which makes them even more likely to get it, right?
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
that's where understanding that you don't have to fall down that rabbit hole. You can actually change everything about your health outcomes by taking a look at what you're putting inside your body and
Hmm.
how you're treating your body. And when we have a clean body on the inside, so it's not enough to just have a shower or a bath and wash our outer body. That's not enough for good hygiene and good health, right?
Yeah.
In our world today, we actually need to be detoxing because we live in a toxic world, right? And so that's
Absolutely.
another whole conversation we can get into. But just to finish the part on the epigenetics, is that when we keep our body really clean, we're lowering the inflammation, right? Instead
Yeah.
of being in a state of chronic inflammation, we've got healthy levels of inflammation, because we do need some inflammation. When we cut our finger, then the area gets inflamed so the body can heal it. We
Mhm.
sprain our ankle, same thing. What we don't need is chronic inflammation.
Yeah.
So when we are in a place of healthy inflammation, then we're not having our cells trigger our genes to turn on the disease.
Mhm.
So those
Mhm.
genes never have to get turned on, in other words, and
Yeah.
that's the critical piece. And
Yeah.
we have the choice to live our life in such a way that we never turn on those genes, right? And so that's the powerful piece of working with the physical body, which I love, and the empowerment that people can have and can take away from this, in addition to the power of working with our mental and our emotional bodies.
That's amazing. I think it's
I,
amazing.
I
I
love
hope
it.
people
I
that are
love this
listening
work.
think it's amazing. For me, it's like I can geek on that all day long, you
Yeah,
know,
obviously, so can I.
because these are things that often people don't consider or don't think about of how the food we put in our body can affect our health, how the lotion you put in your body can affect your health, how
Mhm.
like people like it always make me giggle a little, when people want to promote me some, health product like beauty product or cream and lotions and this and that, and I'm like, well, I don't use any of that, like I don't like what I use for face product. I put essential oil and then cacao butter,
Right.
so the ingredient on the cacao butter is 100% cacao butter. For those that
Yep.
don't know what cacao butter is the fat of the chocolate whenever they extract the fat out of
Yeah.
the chocolate.
Yeah.
And I bought it in little sticks and it cost $3 and it lasts me 2 months. So
Yeah.
can't go cheaper than that. But it works.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, look at me. I don't look
Yes.
a day over 65, which I hope not, because I'm not.
Well, and I use jojoba oil, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I
Exactly.
love that. And sometimes I use coconut oil.
Yeah.
I make my own deodorants. I make a
Yeah.
lot of my own products, and I'm very
Mhm.
choosy about where I buy my products, especially my personal care products, because
Yeah.
so many of our personal care products are going directly onto our skin, as you
Exactly.
mentioned. And
Exactly.
that it only takes 26 seconds for that to get into our bloodstream.
Yeah.
And
It
once
goes
it's in our
fast.
bloodstream, it's going through our whole body and up into our brain, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And we don't want that. When we put food in our mouth, even if it's chemicals in the food or toxins getting in, or, even through the water we drink, some, tap waters can have chemicals in them too, right? So that's all getting into our body through our mouth, but that gets filtered by the liver
Yeah.
before it gets into the bloodstream.
Yeah.
But for our personal care products, it's straight into the bloodstream. And so it is
Absolutely.
very important to know what's in those products and know that they're clean. And the wonderful thing is now is there is so much more education around this, and so many more companies that are producing really clean products that
Mhm.
we can use. And
In
so
theory, what I ask, like people, I say, would you eat it? And
right,
then if they say, are you crazy? I said, well, if you can't eat it, you can't put it on your skin. You
right,
know?
exactly, exactly. And so, yeah, so I have a page on my website, actually, which you can see it behind me, yourguidedhealthjourney.com. And if you go to resources, underneath that is my recommendations. And you can
Mhm.
scroll down to the different sections of lifestyle and laundry and personal care,
Yeah.
etc., where I show the products that I use. I've included my deodorant recipe there, because I just
Yeah.
make my own, to help people start to make that shift,
It's just
right?
you have to keep it in the fridge in the summer, but beside that.
Yes.
Because it's made with coconut oil,
It
right?
is. It's made, yes. In
And
winter,
in the summer
it's
when it
quite
gets
hard,
hot,
and
it's like
yeah,
it gets
it
liquid,
melts.
but
Yeah.
it makes like, whoo, waking up when you put your
Yeah.
deodorant on.
It still works. Even if it's liquid, I find that it still
Oh
works.
yeah, you just put a dab for
And it
sure.
has to be over, I've noticed here, because I'm in Whistler, it has to be over 30 degrees before it melts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we do get days over 30 degrees. And last summer we had a week that was over 40,
Yeah.
but it's not a lot. And so for the most part, it's all good.
Yes, I know. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
Exactly. It's all good. Yeah.
No, I know, it's just laughing, right? I can imagine, you just coming out of a hot shower and then you put your 2-degree deodorant under your
Yeah.
armpits, like, okay, now I'm awake.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
works. I mean, and I don't make my own deodorant, but I read the ingredient and I made sure, I don't mind paying more, and there's no like chemical. It's made with, pretty much it gets softer in the summer and it gets,
Yeah.
like it's the same idea,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and
Which
you
is
say
pretty
I don't
cool.
mind paying more. So the interesting thing is you either pay now or you pay later, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you pay now for products that are clean as possible,
Yeah.
so that you can have your health, that you can feel good, that you can, live in your full vitality now
Yeah.
and for as long as possible, right? Because here's the reality, unfortunately, right now in North America, the average person spends 10 years dying in a nursing home. What if you could have those 10 years back?
And not
Because
spend money in a nursing home and
exactly,
have a quality, go on vacation instead, all that
exactly.
money that you pay like $8,000 a month to be in,
Yeah,
facilities that, imagine the vacation
exactly.
you could have if you were healthy.
And so we can do that.
Yes.
And we're just not taught it through public health or our education system, because I think they're just, you know, larger organizations that are slower to change, right?
Hmm.
And all of the new science that's coming out around this is relatively recent. And in terms of detoxing, that's something that I run programs for and I teach. I truly believe that if we get the entire world detoxing, because unfortunately we're in a state where with 144,000 man-made chemicals since World War II, we can no longer avoid them. We can make better choices, absolutely, but we
Hmm.
can't avoid it 100%.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is also support our body in getting those toxins out. And when we do that, we can alleviate chronic illness. Like, when has chronic illness
Yeah, but
arisen? It's
we
arisen
don't
in
want
the
to, I
last
don't want to
100
get
years.
political here, but like the big people don't want us to eliminate chronic
Exactly.
illness,
So that's why we're not taught. So the little people have to share this, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. And that message is getting out more and more, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, the reality is that chronic illness has essentially developed in the last 100 years, right?
Hmm.
Obesity is at 42.4% in North America right now. And it was at 1.9% at the start of the 20th century.
It has a
Diabetes
lot
is,
to do with first of all the food we eat. One,
mhm,
two,
mhm,
people are not as active because when you
mhm.
used to work the land and walk to
Yes,
work and all of that,
exactly,
we get more
exactly.
activities. And so I said food, and also the chemical that we're surrounded with. Like, what do you
Exactly,
wash your clothes with? What do you wash your dishes with? What do
exactly.
you wash your floor with? What do you wash your toilet with? What do you, the water you drink, and like all these things
Mhm,
are full of toxins,
exactly.
that are affecting our body. And I did a program on that we're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's one toxin is fine, but when you start to build up,
Yes.
nobody calculated the buildup of all those toxins.
Exactly, and when they test them,
They tested for that one
they test
product.
one at a time.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Whereas I talk about overflowing trash cans and my mentor talks about overflowing rain barrels. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's the combined or the cumulative effect
Yeah.
of that buildup over time inside our bodies. And it's not just the chemical or the heavy metal toxins that you can think of as well, but it's also the poor sleep is negatively impacting the health of our gut,
Hmm.
right? High
Hmm.
stress is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And then poor nutrition in terms of eating a mainly processed food diet, but also eating on the run,
Yeah.
right?
The
And eating
stress
in
of
that stress
eating. Yeah.
state.
Yeah. Yeah, I had
These
a
are
mentor
all
that was
factors.
saying, it's better, not the best, but it's better to eat McDonald's in harmony than to eat a healthy salad stressed out, right? To a
Yeah,
point, right?
to a
Because it's
point.
to a point. But it's the fact that, like if you're that's why the idea of, do a prayer before the eating and
Mhm.
thanking the food you put in your mouth is just to stress you down and to
Exactly.
become conscious of the food you're putting in your
Mhm.
body,
Exactly.
and to relax and to chew and to, let the
Slow
saliva
down
in
while
your
we're
mouth,
eating.
like develop those enzymes to digest your food. You don't need to pop a pill, just eat slower, you know.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's so important. And yet, the average person chews each mouthful 3 to 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, because it's on the run. And the average meal takes 7 minutes, right? So I'm working with people to have the average meal take 20 minutes
Mm-hmm.
and to be chewing at least 20 times for each
Yeah.
mouthful and putting our cutlery down between bites and even breathing between bites to have the benefit of the oxygen getting
Mm-hmm.
into our belly and stoking the fire of our metabolism to break down that food,
And I
right?
can hear people say, I don't have time for that.
And so again, it comes down to what are the
Yeah.
priorities in your life?
Yeah.
How do you feel after eating? A lot of the people that might be saying, I don't have time for that, are the people that are struggling with bloating or gas or heartburn or, not, constipation, diarrhea. Those are all signs
Mm-hmm.
of an unhappy gut. And how many people are, popping digestive enzymes every day or acids, which is even worse because it makes the whole
Yeah.
situation worse
Yeah.
every single day to get through the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Digestive
Mm-hmm.
enzymes can support the body when they're needed, absolutely, but we can still get to the root cause. We can still
Yeah.
teach people about digestion and how to lower their stress and get out of their stress system and into
Yes.
their rest and digest system before eating in order to resolve these issues, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So tell me, we can tell that you have accumulated amazing knowledge into what you do. But what made you decide to start in that line of work initially?
I was very much guided to this work, actually. And so 7 years ago, a little bit over 7 years ago, I was let go from my corporate job. And
Mhm.
I'd been working for one company for 24 years, but big fish bought little fish. And I was given an hour to clear out my desk and no word of thanks. And in that moment, I knew three things. I made a decision that I was never going to work for someone else again. Secondly, whatever I did next had to be more of service to the planet and humanity than what my
Mhm.
corporate job was. And thirdly, I had no idea what that was going to be. And yes, it was kind of scary, but I was open to being guided. I
Yeah.
knew that I didn't want to like I said, work for someone else, which meant I wasn't going to stay in the same industry or the same career. So whatever
Mhm.
I did next was
Mhm.
going to be completely different. And I was really open to that. I felt like this was my second career now, and
Yeah.
it could be totally different. And later that year, I came across a company that specialized in brain supplementation. And I thought that was really interesting because I knew that we had near epidemic levels of Alzheimer's and dementia. And yet, over here, I had a grandmother who was 99 years old and still living at home by herself, looking after herself, fully cognitively functioning. And I also knew that I use my brain 24/7, and no one had ever told me that I could do more to support the health of my brain. Like,
Uh-huh.
why wouldn't I want to do that? Because I don't want to go down the path of Alzheimer's and dementia, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I knew that I had good genes from my grandmother. I didn't know anything about epigenetics then, but something made me wonder, is that enough? Right?
Uh-huh.
And I started thinking about her life compared to my life. And she was born in little old Christchurch, New Zealand, in the bottom corner of the world in 1916, before all the 144,000 man made chemicals we've had introduced since World War II, right? So her
Yeah.
formative years were in a very, very clean environment. And they grew all their own produce and
Mhm.
food on the
Of course.
property, right? Had their own animals, et cetera, et cetera. Meanwhile, I was raised and had a wonderful childhood. I was raised in Tokyo, Japan, but it was the 1970s and it was the height of manufacturing plants spewing out toxins without a single care for what that might be doing to our environment and our
Mhm.
health, right? So I knew right then I am behind the eight ball if it comes to me wanting to be on my grandmother's path, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
had to do more for my health, my body, and I knew I was toxic. So I started learning about the brain. I started learning about, nutrition for the brain, and I started learning about our toxic load and the impact of toxins on the health of our brain and our body. And 4 months later, my oldest daughter got a concussion in her first grade 12 soccer game of the season. And she was in no way capable of going to an hour-long appointment and listening to what they have to say and then coming home and telling me what she needed to do between then and the next appointment to further her healing.
Mm-hmm.
She just didn't with the concussion, she did not have
Yeah.
the cognitive
Yeah.
function to do that. So because I was interested in the brain and I wasn't working full time, I went with her to her appointments. And then I could keep her on track between appointments. Well, 2 months after that, I got a call from the high school as I was driving that the high school wanted me to go pick up my younger daughter because she had a suspected concussion from grade 8 gym class.
My God.
And in that moment, I
That's a
went,
theme in the
really?
family.
This is how you show me my path? Stop taking out my children.
Yeah.
And I went to her appointments as well.
Yeah.
And I realized, what do other people do that don't have a mom that conveniently isn't working to
Mm-hmm.
go with them to their appointments and support their healing journey? Because I'd learned enough already that the body doesn't heal in a stressed out state. People need to be guided in their journey so they can relax into the process and they don't feel alone and they're not trying to figure it all out on their own. Because when
Yeah.
they are, that's stressful, right?
Yeah. Just
You
that
have-
is stressful. You hear stories, people go to doctor and they get talked about the diagnostic and all that, and all they remember is the first 2 words, and then nothing, right?
Exactly, because they've hit the critical faculty of the brain and they've triggered the fight or flight, and that's
Yeah.
all they can process,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And with a concussion, that the fight or
It's
flight's
even worse.
already
Yeah.
triggered,
Yeah.
right? So we need to support them and bring them into that relaxed state so that the body can start healing. And I realized there was a gap in the medical model, right? And so the great news is both my kids fully recovered. And I do live in a small town, so people knew our story and were starting to phone me and say, hey, I have an employee that I want to bring back to work. They have a concussion. How do I do that? Is there a process? You know, people calling me saying, my husband got a concussion. What do I do? How do I support him? My child has a concussion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I was invited to work at a holistic clinic that was opening to support the many people that we have with concussions here, because it's in the winter it's downhill skiing and in the summer it's downhill biking, right? And then
Yeah.
there's
There's
the
lots of
average person that might
centers.
just slip on ice, right? So there's
Absolutely.
concussions. And there's a lot of experts in town too. And so for my kids to have their concussions, I was grateful for all of their expertise,
Mm-hmm.
but I was the only one bringing a nutritional piece to it,
Yeah.
as well as the supportive piece to it, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, I couldn't work at the holistic clinic because I couldn't get insurance, liability insurance, because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have any official training, and the
Yeah.
insurance companies don't want to touch somebody who says,
Just come out
well,
of the street. Yeah. It's like,
yeah, exactly. And I mean, where do we get our studies from? They come from books, they come from research. I was doing all of that online, but I had nothing to show for it, right?
exactly. Exactly.
So I contacted a friend who was a life coach, because ever since I'd been let go, life coach had been floating around in the back of my head, but it had never landed. But I thought, okay, I guess this is the sign. Now I have to go get my life coaching certification. So I called him to ask where he did his certification. And he just said, you don't need to be a life coach. You need to be a health coach. And I went, what? What's that? I've literally never heard the term before. And so
Yeah.
this was another gift from the universe, right? And so I started researching health coaching courses, and I found a few, and I landed on one that I absolutely loved and aligned with. And within 10 days, I was in their next intake and started my training,
Mm-hmm.
and have never looked back. But honestly, from that first moment I started that first session, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I
Yeah.
knew I had landed. I knew I had found my purpose, my passion, and I literally have never looked back. But I had so many ahas in that first little bit of, why didn't I know this? How come no one ever taught this to me?
Mm-hmm.
How do I not know this about my own body, right?
Yeah.
And I realized, well, I went to school like everyone else. Then I did a commerce degree, right? Then I went into the corporate world, and I was in accounting. Then I was in sales and marketing. I never had medicine or health and wellness or any of that on my radar.
No.
I tried to eat healthy. I exercised. I loved the outdoor life. That was important to me, but I didn't know any of the rest of it. And I realized, if I don't know this, there's probably millions of other people out there that don't know this, right? Because we're busy. I was busy being a wife and a mom and
Yeah.
working my corporate job. We don't all have time to go back to school. But now I'm back at school and I can pay it forward by teaching this to others, which is what I absolutely love to do now. And that's a big part of the health empowerment is
Yeah.
that, since then I've started my podcast. I've got health hacks programs going. I do blogs. I do programs like this because bringing the information to people is so important. I do webinars as well so that people can make the little changes in their life. Because, when you have habits that you've developed that you don't know are negatively impacting your sleep, for instance, you don't know to change them. But if you learn that, that is negatively impacting my sleep and I'm not sleeping well and I'm waking up tired and I want to shift that, then it's pretty easy to change that habit, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got the outcome that you want. And so for me, I just changed so many little habits step by step by step because I understood it and I was motivated to
So you understand the reason why you need to change it, right?
exactly.
Because people
Exactly.
that hear or read an article or see a show that says you got to change this and this and that, but they don't really understand so what, right?
Right.
So
It's the
there's no,
why that's important, as you
yeah,
say.
that's the why.
Yeah. And so that's what I always focus on explaining is the
Yeah.
why,
Mm-hmm.
because then it makes sense for people and they're like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like for instance, just a really quick one that I share with people all the time. And I take all of my clients through coming off coffee just to see how sensitive they are to coffee and how it's
Mm-hmm.
impacting their energy and their sleep.
Yeah.
Because for many people, they think coffee is waking them up and giving them energy. But when we actually take it away, and there's some resistance for some people, but when we take it away, they actually, in many cases, find out they have more energy and sleep better without it. And they're
Yeah.
shocked, right?
Yeah.
But they've just had it for so long and it's become a habit and they've never questioned it. And then they take it away and they're like, oh my goodness, I had no idea. A, on the dependency, and B, on how it was creating a negative vicious cycle. And
Yeah.
that's because coffee has the 8-hour half-life, right? So if you have a cup of coffee at 7 o'clock in the morning to wake you up for your day and turn on your brain because you've woken up feeling lethargic, even though you've, been in bed all night, half of the caffeine in that coffee is still running around in your bloodstream at 3 p.m., 8 hours later. And then half of that is still in your bloodstream at 11 p.m. when you're trying to go to sleep. And that's if you've had one cup. If you've
Uh-huh.
had 2 or 3 or
Compound.
4,
Yeah.
right? And many people are having more than one cup. Some people are having it in the
For
middle of
dinner,
the
like coffee
afternoon,
after
right?
dinner or
Yeah. And so, like sugar, we all have different degrees of sensitivity. So
yeah.
some people can have coffee after dinner and it really doesn't impact their sleep. But
Mm-hmm.
for many, many people, having more than one coffee a day is impacting their sleep and they just don't know it. And so when we remove it and we test it for them and they start to notice the improvement in their sleep and that they're waking up feeling alert and hey, I don't even need that coffee,
Yeah.
we can change that habit because now they know why.
And the thing is,
Right?
they sleep so much better,
Exactly.
deeper, and they
Exactly.
get all the level of sleep as opposed to, missing some of the essential part of their sleep.
Exactly. They're getting their REM and their deep sleep and their light sleep, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference. And like for me, it's funny because I like to Indian food, and when I go eat Indian food, what's nice to eat with Indian food is a nice chai, right?
Right.
But often in the restaurant, the chai is made with black tea. So I know that if I do have a chai, with my dinner, then there's a chance that I won't be able to go to sleep as
Mhm.
fast. And initially, I didn't really think of that because the chai I have at home is decaffeinated. So I
Right.
don't have the jitter of the tea. And one or more than once, I was having one chai and then they pass by. So, would you like another chai? And then I say, yes, please. I would like another chai. And then I'm like 1 o'clock in the morning,
Wide
wide
awake.
awake.
Yep.
And then the next day, I joke around with my friend and I said, I'm so stupid. And then I
Yeah.
say, the waiter asks, do you want another cup of tea? Yeah, sure, I'll have another cup of tea. Which I'm laughing at myself at 1:30 in the morning when I can't sleep afterwards, right?
Right. But then that happens, and now you've learned that lesson. So
Oh yeah,
next
I
time
know
you'll
for sure.
remember, right?
Yeah, of course I
And
do. Yes.
yeah, exactly. And I'm the same. I'm very sensitive to caffeine. So,
Yeah.
and I don't drink coffee at all.
Yeah, me neither.
I drink herbal tea most of the day. I do like a good chai, but I can't have it in the afternoon. It has to be in the
Hmm.
morning. And
Or matcha is the same.
yeah,
I like
exactly.
matcha in the morning,
Yeah.
but if I
So
have it past 3 p.m., it will have an effect on me in the evening for sure.
same. Yeah, I'm exactly the same. And I don't even like to do it after 12 o'clock, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, most people don't realize this, right? It's just become that habit. And then there's a lot of people like, well, I don't want to give up my coffee because it's my ritual. And I'm like, we don't have to give up the ritual, right? You can do decaf instead if you find you're really sensitive to it. You can drink it, if you don't want to do the decaf, we could do half a cup instead of the whole cup, right? Maybe it's a ritual that you only do on the weekends, not every day of the week. So we can
Mhm.
adjust things, right?
Yeah,
Because as you said, when you're feeling better, you're much more willing to keep going with
of
your new
course,
habits, right?
of
And the
course.
wonderful thing about our human body is when we create the environment for it to heal, it starts healing really quickly, right? Even with something as small as improving our sleep because we've removed coffee. And improved sleep is so profound to our health because when we sleep well, we have, a good balance of good and bad bacteria in our gut, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And our 70% of our immune system is housed in our gut, which means we're supporting the health of our immune system, right?
Yeah.
When we sleep more, we're much more stress resilient as well. And so good sleep is integral to good health. And yet we mess it up with things like coffee or too much
Tea
screen time late at
or
night.
sugar or, you know, a
Mhm.
late night snack, a little cup of coffee and a piece of apple pie, before
Yes,
going to bed. And then you wonder why you can't sleep.
yes. And when we do that, we are going to sleep with digestion turned on, right? Because
Yeah.
digestion trumps everything. So
Yeah.
now we're in digestion mode again, and the body's going, why am I in digestion mode again? Right.
Tossed and turning, tossed and turning.
And then the body can't turn on detox mode, right?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is what it's supposed to do overnight. So we're not able to, move those toxins through and out of the body as well, which is already a problem in today's world because it's so toxic and the liver's overburdened. It's also undernourished because we're not getting the nutrients from the soil that are needed for good liver
Yeah.
detoxification, right?
Yeah.
So we have all of these things going on, and but there's just habits that we create and we don't understand or have any understanding of the ramifications of them, right?
Okay. So now the last few minutes. So now that we talk about all the problems, how can people how can people work with you and get solutions? So in a nutshell, so how can people, like, what do you do with people to help them, and how can they benefit from working with you?
Sure. So every single person that I work with will do a detox with me. I have a toxic load quiz, and they do the quiz so we can determine their degree of toxicity and how long of a detox they should do, whether it's 7, 14, or 21 days. The reality is most people are doing a 21-day detox because
Mhm.
we do live in a toxic world. And
Yeah.
if we haven't ever done a proper functional medicine detox before, the body needs it, right?
Mhm.
And inside that 3 weeks, people have profound results already, from improved sleep to um, more mental clarity, less brain fog, to aches and pains going away.
Inflammation.
Inflammation is going down, which is causing those aches and pains to go away. Just more energy, feeling, more vitality. So many times I have people say, I can't remember the last time I felt this good, right?
Like inflammation, like, just to bring that up, like, some people don't know what that means to have inflammation. So if you have your band for your watch, or your socks, the line of your socks, or the belt, and if after, once you take your socks off, and if there's a indentation, where your socks is, or if your band is so tight that, or your ring, and that's inflammation, right? It means
Mhm.
that you have inflammation in your body. So if you take your socks off at night and you have that band around your ankle
Right.
or on your calves or your belt, and you got the ridge, and
Yes.
so that's inflammation.
Or
That's
from
when
your
you have,
bra, from your underwear.
yeah, that's
Um,
inflammation. If you have those lines on your body, you have inflammations.
and over 90% of the population in today's world does have inflammation,
Yeah.
right? And so again, what can we do about that? There's so much
Mhm.
that we can do about that. But I always start people with a detox because we're toxic and because they get quick results and they
Yeah.
start feeling better, which
Yeah.
motivates them to want to keep going. And it
Mhm.
also instills their belief that I know what I'm doing, right?
Mhm.
And so then from there, people can move on and we can run lab tests depending on whatever they have going on with their health. For some people, they're like, I just want to optimize my health. I want to run them all. For some people, it might be very specific to gut issues. It might be very specific to hormone issues, and they just run those labs, right? And then after we run the labs, I provide them a wellness protocol and I show them the labs to show them where the imbalances are, where the deficiencies are. And I write them a wellness protocol for the next 4 to 6 months of
Mhm.
guiding their body back into balance. And it's
Yeah.
not just one appointment and then go and do it. Again, that's what the medical model does. But often we know what we should do, but we don't do it, right?
Mhm. It's nice to have
So
accountabilities.
exactly. Accountability, the ability to reach out, to ask questions. I try to make it as easy as possible. I provide recipes and a lot of coaching along the way with the health education that people
Mhm.
need, right? So they can get to these next steps. And then now with my new training, for those that are, coming into this with repressed emotions that we need to be addressing, limiting beliefs, we can address all of that as well. And
Mhm.
when we do that first intake, we determine what needs to come first. Do we first have to be releasing the limiting beliefs
Yeah.
before we can even start on any wellness protocols? Or do we start the wellness protocols and we deal with, the negative emotions as we go through them? And again,
Mhm.
that's completely up to each individual and where they're at. And I'm working with everybody one to one. I do the detox programs as a group, but as soon as we get into the labs or the timeline therapy or hypnotherapy, NLP, that's all one to one sessions.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. So I guess behind you is how people can reach you, and I'll put it also in the comment and of the whether people watch it on YouTube or Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter's. It's all over the place. So whenever you watch that, just check the comment, and that's where you'll see the information about Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
I think
any
I
last
gave you
word before we
well, I
end?
think I gave you the link to the toxic load quiz that you can put in the show
Let me
notes as
check.
well.
Yes, I'm sure I have that.
And people can also book, they can go to my website and just on the homepage, they can book a complimentary consult with me so that we
Oh,
can get to
nice.
know each other and determine if I'm the right person to guide you on your healing journey or your health journey.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I like to work with people before they're really, really sick, right?
Yeah,
But
that's the
you have
idea for me too,
symptoms.
prevention. That's why the
Exactly.
stress, because why I got into working with mental health and becoming a serenity expert is because when I was doing my functional medicine course, it was more geared towards people that has cancer, degenerative disease.
Mhm.
And I did have a few clients that had cancer, and it's so difficult once people are in the system
Mhm.
to get them out of the system.
I actually
And
don't work with people in the system. They have to be
exactly,
out the other side, and then
yeah,
I can help them
yeah,
detox from all of the chemical drugs,
yes,
as well as
yeah,
support the deficiencies that have been triggered by all of those
yeah,
chemical drugs.
yeah.
But
And
I'd
then what
rather
I
work with them before they even get into the
before,
system.
because that's what I realized, that the reason why people got sick initially, that's because stress
Mhm.
kill your immune system, and when your immune system is down, then
Yep,
disease, illness are just flaring up. So that's
exactly.
why I much prefer also to work with people
Yes,
before they get sick. So
yes,
don't say, working with me or Melissa, don't say, well, I'm fine. Yeah, well, perfect. Let's assess how fine you are so that we can release you faster, or send you in a great direction of being fine up until you die. You wake up
exactly.
one morning and you're not there anymore. You don't wake up when you
Right.
were healthy the night before. That's the best way to die, like in the
Yeah,
good
that's
old
my
days.
grandmother. She died in her sleep at 101.
Yeah,
That's
just
the way I want to go, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
you
you were
just
just asking what more did I want to leave the audience with? So you've triggered a thought, and that is simply not to ignore your symptoms. Your
Mm-hmm.
symptoms are your body talking to you and asking you to do something differently. They're not signs of aging. They're not to be written off as genetics. They're not to be written off as seasonal allergies. Instead, get curious. Why have I got this symptom right now? Whether it's nasal drip, whether it's a headache, whether it's, bloating or gas, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this happening? And what can I do about it now?
Yeah.
And who do I need to reach out to? Because,
Yeah.
this is the work that you and I can help people with so we can alleviate the symptoms and get you back to feeling amazing all the time.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
better than I did 20 years ago because I've learned all of this in the
Of
last
course.
7
Of
years and
course.
implemented it.
Yeah, and people take better care of their car than themselves. They see the
It's
check
true.
engine light on, they
Yeah.
take it right to the mechanic and say, "Oh,
Yeah.
I got a check engine light on. You got to fix this." But
Yeah.
if you have a headache or if you have pain or if you have like bloating, it's like, "Oh, I'll take a thumb or I'll take this or I'll take a Tylenol and I'll be
Right.
fine," right? But
Exactly.
no, it's like putting, Vaseline into your gas tank, right? It's like you would not do that. So reach out. We're here
Yes.
to help. So thank you so much, Melissa. Just stay there. I'll be right back with you. So thank you so much for listening. It was a long episode today, but Melissa and I, we could talk for hours about that stuff. We're geeking out on health and wellness and how to get better. And I hope you enjoyed the show. So if you watch it all the way to the end, kudos, because you got great knowledge. Just leave a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube on replay, just do hashtag, just do, subscribe. You watch it maybe on Melissa's site or on mine, subscribe, ring the little bell so that you can be notified whenever a video comes up, and would love to hear from you. So until next time, have a wonderful week. I'll be here next Wednesday. And until next time, have